Hey, this is Brian, and welcome to Podcast on Wheels, powered by Power Loops. Today, we have a very special guest, Matt Murphy. I was fortunate to get to hear him speak in person a few months back, and his genuineness and ability to want to share the good stories that he can and how he's helping people. You know, Matt is now the president of the Sentinel Foundation. He has a background in Army Green Beret, CIA, and showed up riding a motorcycle today. So he and I have a lot in common there. So, Matt, welcome to the studio.
Appreciate you having me, brother. It's great to be here. Finally, we got to get it done, too. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've tried a couple times. We finally got it.
Yeah,
finally got it. So tell us a little bit about your story, and just take over here.
Yeah, brother. So I, joined the military to get out and see the world, right? And just basically get away from Memphis, Tennessee and the suburbs I grew up in. And man, it turned into what I thought was going to be a runaway. It turned into a career. And, I went to join infantry, did a 13-month Iraq deployment where I got to see Green Berets and be amazed by the stuff they did. Went and tried out as soon as I got back, and then spent a career in Special Forces, was detailed to the agency for a while on a certain mission, and then ended up being put back in that country and on that mission multiple times in different capacities. Up until I pretty much retired, or before that. But I thought that was going to be what I was going to do my whole life. And even though I still have a company and things that operate in that world, doing the paramilitary operations and things, one of the things that pretty much set the course of my life, a completely different trajectory where I am today, was the loss of my sister in 2019. She, not to talk too much on it, but she's bad on drugs, man. One thing led to another. Grew up privileged, upper middle class family, private schools, nice cars. She had everything she could ever want, you would think, as a kid. And, taking the wrong drugs just set off a chain reaction for her. To next thing you know, it's addiction and heroin and fentanyl, man. And I think there's too many families here in America from every class, I guess you could say, that have been affected by that. But unfortunately with girls, as the worse the drugs get and the addiction gets, the more it takes hold of your life. She started to lose everything. You lose your jobs, you get in trouble with the law, lose your license, making a lot of stupid decisions. And once you have nothing, as a girl and even as a guy nowadays, the only thing you have left to sell is yourself, right? So the guys that have the drugs take advantage of that. And she ended up being what we call trafficked, by this dealer to pay for her fix. And this guy had beaten her up. Can't say names because it's still an active investigation, you know what I mean? But this guy had beaten her up really bad, and she swore she was never going to see him again, according to my parents. Well, obviously, my parents hid all this from me. I knew she had a problem, but I didn't know to the extent, right?
Right.
And the next thing you know, she goes back to this guy, picks her up. 30 minutes later, her cell phone never touches the tower again. This is November 5th, 2019. And then her body was found in a river in North Mississippi, Christmas Eve, 2019. So she was missing almost 2 months. And we still don't know the full details of everything that happened or what happened, all the rumors, of course, around human trafficking and people that have talked and said things, but no one will testify. Everyone's scared to death, because these drug rings are usually linked into organized crime and distributors and dangerous people, and everyone's scared to death or ran away that knew anything about what happened to her. So being a Green Beret, counterterrorism specialist, hunting people and doing things like that my whole life, that tore me up, not being able to do anything to help her here in the States. Because, if you do anything, you become Batman, a vigilante, right? And the only thing that really kept me going or stopped me from going and doing something about it was the fact that at that time I had 2 daughters, and my mom kept reminding me of that. I do something stupid to these guys, and I'm not going to be able to raise them, and so that's probably the only reason I'm sitting here today, right? Is the fact that I had those 2 girls at the time. And man, 2020 hit after that whole thing. I'm sure everybody remembers COVID, 2020, just the craziness. And man, that's just when I became a drunk train wreck, just dealing with all the, everything that happened to my sister, really beating myself up for not being able to do anything. You know, that's a very, you know, roller coaster, you know, dilemma for me. Is that, you know, could I have stopped it? Could I have done something? You know, you wrestle with that stuff. So to numb all that pain, alcohol, and then, you know, at that point, 17, 18 years of being a Green Beret and all the horrible shit I had to do, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, you know, things I could never talk with anyone about, that started to catch up to me. Because, you know, when you're in the game, you don't have time to sit around and be, woe is me, or cry, or think about stuff. You got to be on point, on mission, ready for the next mission. You know, it's that's just the life you live. You don't have time for, you know, bullshit.
Right.
And everything started to hit me, you know, and it got bad, man. I'm, you know, pretty much almost suicidal, you know, so it was such a dark place. But, you know, one night I said a prayer. You know, I hadn't believed in God or really cared about that since, you know, suburban Sunday church, you know, Sunday school, you know, once a week.
Right.
That's kind of what turned me off from it in the first place.
Right.
So, and that started a trajectory that changed my life, man. And I decided to start a foundation charity called Operation Light Shine. And then that kind of blew up overnight. Partnered up with Tim Tebow. You know, he started funding the build out of it because, you know, I was a military guy. I don't got any money. And at the time, you know, I was pretty broke. And he helped me get that off the ground financially. And the next thing you know, it started expanding. And I would then react to things that would pop up and happen overseas. And we did Afghanistan, we did Ukraine, a bunch of rescues and things there. And simultaneously, we were building task forces to fight human trafficking and child exploitation in the States. Because that was the biggest thing for me, man, is, you know, I had seen human trafficking all over the world. And it's just, you know, women being sold and raped and traded for cigarettes are just part of life over there, right? You know, that's just normal. I hate to say it like that, but a lot of the world's not like America, right? And so because of that, in the military capacity, we're not allowed to, you know, really mess with domestic affairs, whatever you call them. You know, we have a mission and all that. But you don't really think about how bad human trafficking and things like that are here in the States until I lost my sister. I started to look into it. And that became my passion, man, was to save other people from this, you know, fate, specifically children, right? Because adults, unfortunately, and even in my sister's case, once the drugs take hold of people, you know, it's sad to say, but the only person that can help them at that point is themselves. You know, you can waste all the time in the world trying to tell them to stop. You know, you can do everything you can to get them in and out of rehab and all these kind of things, but the drugs won't stop until they choose to stop, right? And unfortunately, with human trafficking, especially of adults, it's a decision they make because of the addiction and something that they will very rarely walk away from. It has like a 90% recidivism rate of people that get pulled out of it. But with kids, you have an opportunity to change the trajectory of their life, right? So that's what you really want to focus on with things. So we built these Light Shine task forces to start tackling it domestically. And charities in multiple states now, multiple task forces doing great things, rescuing lots of kids, lots of people from trafficking. So, you know, I was very, very grateful that I ended up working out and have an impact, man. But it didn't become really what I wanted it to become. You know, it's what they're doing is great. I'm not talking bad about what's happening with the task forces, but it's just nowhere near, and it can't be in the model that they're doing at the level needed to affect change in this situation, man. And I mean, I don't know how to say this the right way, but the world's kind of going to shit right now.
It is.
I mean, everything's going wrong, right? And when everything's going wrong, unfortunately, protecting the most vulnerable, women and the children, kind of goes out the window. And that's kind of where we're at with what I'm doing with the Sentinel Foundation, you know, because I knew it needed a more strategic, high-level approach, you know, more intel work, more tie-ins with big tech and other things, and a more strategic, capable team. You know, the team we had at Light Shine, I love the people that came on to death, but, you know, they were people that we had actors, and we had, shop owners, business owners, like people that, we had a guy who was on The Bachelorette, and that was helpful at first,
Right.
and, it was, you didn't need expertise, you just needed connections. But once the connections and you get the funding to come in, that expertise, that knowledge, that dedication, that ability to execute, we just didn't have it, right? So coming over to the Sentinel Foundation, it's nothing but Delta Force operators, intel analysts, cream of the crop that this country has to offer, people that are dedicated and on point and on mission. And I knew that was an environment I needed to be in to be able to take this to the next level, right?
Right.
So I resigned from Lightshine summer of last year, turned that back over to the team, stay behind. A bunch of the people on the Lightshine board came over to Sentinel with me in different capacities, and now we're just kind of off to the races, fighting it domestically with Sentinel, but trying to build that larger scope mission that can actually, hopefully, make a dent in this problem.
Well, that's one thing that with this podcast and this show, that there's a lot of things that people they just kind of turn a blind eye to, right? Or they don't accept it that it's happening here. That's another problem somewhere else. And that's one thing that from getting to listen to you, follow you, and listen to some of the numbers and things that are happening right here, and meeting some of the people that I've gotten to meet, it's like somebody asked me the other day, well, Brian, why did you start the show? I said, it's time for people to speak up and speak out, because I've had males, females, I've had all kinds of people in this, and everybody that's been in that chair has said, our country is going to shit. It's not where we need to be. And I'm trying to get people that, maybe they can't do what you can do because of your background and your training in the team, but they can at least
we all have a purpose.
Yeah. So
I love that.
So how, give us some of those numbers and things, because I want people to hear what's really going on.
Yeah, well, here's what's really good. There's two things happening simultaneously. Yes, the country's going down a path to shit. I believe it's almost over. If you really wanted to ask me honestly, there's no way at the rate we're going, this country sustains more than 5 to 10 years. I don't think we'll be a different something soon. We'll be a socialist republic before you know it.
Right.
The other part of this, man, is it's a double-edged sword. The problem itself, and then awareness, right? Knowledge and education. So the first issue is we live in a manufactured world. We live in the metaverse already, and that's what most people don't really understand and it goes back to the smartphone, right? This little black device right here controls my life, my brain, my thoughts, my energy, my talents, and it literally, this device, whether people want to admit it or not, it controls your future, right? Psychological warfare, manipulation, and all of these things have been going on for hundreds of years, right? But this is really the first time they've been able to put something in your pocket that controls your thoughts. Have you ever heard of the term newspaper brain?
No, I haven't
heard that before.
No.
All right, so it was this concept that going back to, let's say, like the 80s, 70s or 80s, you had a newspaper, one newspaper that everyone in town got. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone in town got the same newspaper. And because of that, everyone in town had the same local news, international news, sports news, finance news, what's happening, what's going on, the town, and then the obituaries and comments, right? Everyone had the same newspaper brain. So when you dad, mom, wake up in the morning, read the newspaper, have a cup of coffee, go off to work, all the socially acceptable things for you to think about and talk about, it literally directed every day your thoughts. Where are your thoughts going to be? They're going to be on what you read, what you were told, right? What you were told, what you were allowed to think about, or they wanted you to think about. So you would go around all day, you'd talk about that with your newspaper brain. That was all you had. Then TV also at that same time was getting more popular. The cable news wasn't, so you still had the local news. So you had newspaper brain in the morning, then local news brain at night, and that was all you thought about. Unless you read a book, right? That was controlled your thoughts and the narratives in your day-to-day life. Your worries, your fears, your happiness, your joy was all controlled around what's going on around you, right? So I'm beating that to death just to make this point. Does anyone have newspaper brain anymore? No. We all have an individually created algorithmic and artificial intelligence controlled brain. that is overloaded and inundated with information, fear, and insanity. And what I mean by insanity is if you pick up your phone for 15 minutes and get on social media, can you even tell me what happened to your brain in that 15 minutes? You went from probably sadness to joy to baby videos, puppy videos, to something extreme, to something sexual, usually just sexual, and then back to something you should care about. But do you have the time and anything that you just saw in the 15 to 30 to if you're really paying attention and different than everyone else, the minute that you spent watching something and then 15 more things happened and you watched it, do you really do anything about what you just did on your phone for 15 minutes? It's just kind of a blur, right?
Yeah.
Everyone lives in a social media and iPhone created blur where you get news all day long about everything going on all over the world, everything going on all over your town, everything going on that's manufactured, racism, and that's true as well. Racism, sexism, toxic masculinity, all these oppressive things that are happening in society, all these issues, all these riots, protests, rapes, kidnappings, murders, all the bad stuff, economy, every day, all day, inundated all day long by it. So because of that, none of us really truly has a clue what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know the truth. We know the narrative. We know the headlines. We know that what we're told, right? What we're allowed to know.
Right.
And we dwell on it and we get so overloaded by it, we all, for the majority, shut down on everything that we should care about. Because we spend so much time on here, we spend less time just right here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So people are like, Matt, how can human trafficking be that bad? How can child exploitation be that bad? How could any of this stuff be this bad? It's because no one cares.
Yeah.
It's because they don't have the ability mentally anymore to care because their life is dictated and controlled by this phone. They spend all their thought and time in the metaverse, and no one spends any time in the real world addressing real problems and the actual things that they can control.
Mm-hmm.
Having a little bit of worldly knowledge is okay.
Yeah.
Dwelling on everything in the world that's happening all day long is not.
Yeah.
Commenting on it, liking it, sharing it, getting angry, getting emotional about things that really don't fucking matter to you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're like, how can it be that bad? Well, one thing is you don't know about it because of all that. And then two, it's gotten that bad because you're spending all your time up here.
Mm-hmm.
You're not spending any time out there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's a heck of a rant to get to that point. But it is the reality of this. No one is in control of their destiny anymore the second you pick this phone up. Someone else is telling you everything to think about. An algorithm is, artificial intelligence is. You think that you chose this. You followed these people. You do this stuff. You like this thing. And what that phone does is it takes everything that you think you want and it gives you what it wants you to have out of it.
Step into the future with Power Loops, the king of off-grid power, where our proprietary system is changing the game of energy. This isn't just power, it's freedom. The freedom to live, work, and play anywhere, powered by our innovative technology that taps into the Earth's natural energy. Our system is designed for efficiency, durability, and sustainability, ensuring that you have reliable power 365 days a year without harming the planet. Whether you're traveling in the RV, the remote wilderness, or just opting out of traditional power grids, Power Loops provides the ultimate solution. Join us in leading the charge towards a cleaner, greener, and more empowered world. Power Loops, the king of off-grid energy.
Right? Like you don't use Google. Google uses you.
Yeah.
Well, now that's on crack and the steroids with social media and everything else. Every other app on your phone working together to own you. And the reason they want so much of you is because that data is now worth more than oil.
Mm.
Every interaction you have with that phone is money to them. Every interaction.
Yeah.
Because it's a new data point they can sell.
Well, I will say that on our trip up here today, we were riding and I was made aware of a celebrity that had died. Mm-hmm. And he said, "How did you not know that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I missed that. And it was, and I knew the story and everything, but people make fun of me a lot because they're like, well, you don't read, you don't watch the news, you don't pay attention to this. I'm like, I have a hard time with it because of what you're saying. And I'm trying, and that's one reason we started this show. And I wanted to get, hey, I'm seeing these things from people that are godly people, that are good people, that are going out and actually making a difference. They're not just putting makeup on and getting the attention and getting the money and the funding.
The clicks and the reels and all, like, content creation.
Yeah.
If one more person talks to me about content creation, she's like, it's this is the world we live in, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to live in this world. They want to spend all their time creating content to get more views, to get more things, but things only happen in the social media world.
Yeah.
Like, we found studies have proven this. You get the same dopamine effect, the same sense of fulfillment and good from sharing and liking a post or commenting on it or feeling like you digitally do something than if you just go out and like help homeless people on a food line.
Wow.
Or
I see that. Yeah.
So people are just addicted to these. It's not just the notifications of them wanting you to be on it. It creates addiction. It's a true addiction that people have with their phones. And now almost everything people do in life, right? That they're living in the real world. What are they doing? They're filming it. They're creating content. They're video this, take pictures of this, look at me here. So they're living their real world for the metaverse, for this fake world. They're like, well, how do I know about this? They're not going to tell you about the things they don't want you to know about.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you the truth, right? Celebrities dying, wars going on, bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
Bullshit.
It is.
Doesn't matter to you.
Yeah. And a guy that his event was when I first heard you. And on Super Bowl Sunday, Alfano got on his social media and talked about some things going on underneath the Super Bowl and some things that are happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, and that's a guy that I've grown to respect and love and care about. And as, when I got to go see his place in Tennessee, and he's like, you were there the day before, and we're doing this, doing that. So, I want to align myself with those people, and I want to be a part of that in any capacity I can, right?
100%.
Obviously, I played baseball, okay? So a ball and a bat's not going to, it can have its place, but at the same time, it's like, how do I get the word out? So the things that they're hiding from us that you're making a difference in with, here. Yeah. Can you go into that and just tell us some of the numbers and some of the things that you see and
So here's the reality, man. Right now, child exploitation is the largest public health crisis in American history. Child exploitation alone. Because what happens is, you give your child a phone, you give them access to all of this unnecessary information, so many things. There's more on this phone, right, than people have ever been able to ascertain, right? You could never go into a library and read as much as you can access this phone in 5 minutes, right? Well, you give your child access to the world, but you give the world access to them the second you hand them a phone. So what we're seeing is children are being groomed and exploited at unprecedented rates. We just never even thought. Like 30 years ago, if let's say someone wanted to hang out with my daughter, right? And I'm sitting in the house, she's up in her room. I don't know what the fuck is she doing.
Yeah.
And some grown man comes over and goes, "Hey, is Caitlin here?" I'm like, yeah, she's upstairs in her room. You just go up, go talk to hang out. Not ask him any questions, right? And then another guy comes to the door and says, "Hey, is Caitlin here?" I was like, "Yep, she's right upstairs. Just head up to her room and just go in and go in and going," right? Would any dad ever allow that to happen? Ever, right? Oh. Okay. Well, then why do we let them sit in the rooms with phones? When they can talk to all those grown-ass men and people you've never even met from all over the world that could have any intention, right?
Yeah.
There's a manual that's shared millions of times here in the U.S. that teaches groomers, pedophiles, how to find kids, where to go to find kids, what things, vulnerabilities, and certain things that they're looking for that would profiling, essentially, would be the ideal child for them to start trying to talk to, doing conversation, things to find out where these are things that you can exploit. These are vulnerabilities that you can utilize to start grooming this child. Teaches them how to do it. Whole process, textbook psychology manipulation. It's insane. Then it teaches them how to turn the relationship sexual, right? Because that's their ultimate goal.
Right.
How to get the pictures and videos, how to disguise the conversation, how to hide the conversation so the kid can hide from their parents or caretakers, guardians. Then it teaches them how to get the child to run away, right? Then it teaches them how to get sexual physically with the child once they get the child, depending on the child's age. But it's okay for penetration, penis penetration. It walks them through the whole thing.
Wow.
Whole thing, shared millions of times a year just here in the U.S.
Wow.
So, child exploitation, the case numbers, less than, I can tell you the numbers because we don't even know how many. We do know less than 1% of the cases actually get investigated.
Wow.
Less than 1%. If you took every law enforcement officer here in the U.S. and put them against child exploitation alone, they wouldn't be able to handle the caseload. It comes down between all the cyber tips and all the things that are reported by social media agencies, and they're the worst at it anyways. And people are like, how could this be? How could this many kids be exploited? How would I not know about it? They don't want you to.
Yeah.
Right? You know about celebrities dying. You know about bullshit
Yeah.
all over the world, but you have no idea what's going on in your own backyard, your own neighborhood, right? So that's child exploitation. It's getting out of control. There's over 128 million images and videos of children being graphically sexually abused online. Over 120. That's probably over 130 now. 128 million was last year's number. Now, you know what the most popular category for that sexual abuse is? Toddlers. Most popular category on the internet for child sexual abuse is toddlers. And it's just the fact that people don't know or care or aware, it's insane. Then you get into human trafficking, right? Two different types of things, right? Child exploitation's pedophilia, pedophiles type, behavior. People sometimes get groomed themselves into being into that stuff. That's a whole other long conversation of what happens on social media. But human trafficking is usually driven by, some financial thing. It's gain. It's big money, right? You can sell a drug once, you can sell a person over and over again. So let's say you're the cartel or any of these organized crime networks, you have some insane logistical networks set up for all the drugs that get sold in this country and all the other crap that comes in, right? Why not move people through it, right?
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, nobody knows where the drugs come from. Nobody knows the drug dealers, the guys on the street. No one knows the cartel networks. No one knows who's paid off. No one knows what cops are on the take. No one knows what judges and attorneys and politicians. No one knows, right?
Right.
But we know that trillions of dollars of drugs are sold here in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and then people are like, well, do you know any of where that comes from or how it works or how it happens? Well, does it make human trafficking a little more believable then?
Yeah.
Does it make it a little bit more possible that people can be taken and hidden and sold and moved all over this country with no one knowing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you've got human trafficking, runaway kids, and missing children, about 400,000 every year. A little more than that now. That's just what's reported. It's about 70% of kids in the foster care system are going to be sexually abused or trafficked before that. 70%. It's insane.
Yeah.
Then you got child protective services fracturing and hemorrhaging at the seams. They don't have enough caseworkers, not enough CLAFA people. People are quitting and just leaving because it's so overwhelmed. The adoption system's broken. Children are just sitting ducks for predators in this country. They're vulnerable and no one knows about it because you're on your phone all day.
Yeah.
And you're worried about everything happening all over the world instead of what's happening in your community. And I'm not beating people up for this. I'm just trying to wake people up to what's happening, right? That this is ruining their life.
Yeah.
Read the fucking newspaper in the morning and go and just put it down. Get a flip phone.
Yeah.
I promise you, your perspective, your priorities, the things you value, what's important to you, and how you treat your wife, your kids, and everything else will change overnight.
Yeah.
If you put this damn thing down. So anyways, but the other problem with human trafficking, and this is the doozy, right? And certain people in the government hate it when I talk about this. Right now, we have over 20 million illegal immigrants in the country just in the past 3 years, right? From the Biden administration, 20 million. Over 70%, I think it's closer to 80% now. We're running some numbers, looking at some things. It's really tough to get an exact on this. 70-80% of these are military-age men between the ages of 18 and 35. 70 to 80% of the 20 million, right? So Why? Right? Okay. Well, there's millions of kids too that have come over. Dr. Phil went down, investigated, and proved it, and he went on The View of all freaking places and talked about it. Of course, you got James O'Keefe, who's done stories on it, and a couple other awesome guys that have, gone down there and checked it out. These military-age men will bring kids. There's no family. They're involved. They'll bring them. They'll drop them off at centers, San Diego, and I think another one in Arizona. If there's any documentation or paperwork with this child, it gets destroyed. They get a new name, new identification, new birth certificate, and they get shipped to addresses all over the country. Right?
Wow.
The Department of Homeland Security funds all this through NGOs. Okay. I remember when I was talking about the problems we were having with our own children.
Mm-hmm.
Foster care system's broken. Kids are being abused. Terrible people are all in it. Adoption, there's not enough people to adopt. Kids are just sitting around, growing older, getting on drugs, waiting to be adopted.
Yeah.
You've got child protective services broken. Law enforcement's fractured, hemorrhaging of the seams, underfunded, understaffed, lacking technology, the ability to utilize technology, the talent, and all the other things there that would be needed to help people out. All these problems are happening in the world. Now we have millions of kids being brought into the country. Who's taking care of them?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where are they going?
Yeah.
What's happening to them? Well, they're being fucking exploited and taken advantage of and trafficked and God knows what else.
Right.
Organs, sex, labor, manipulation into God knows what environment.
Yeah. One of the guests that we had here, Shonda Pierce, is by her own admission, I wouldn't say, but she's about 60. Okay. But she is the #1 female comedian of all time in the South. Okay. And when she came in here, she looks around, she said, you need to take this down to El Paso and tell the truth. And she said, you need to go and you need to play it out there and you need to go tell the truth. And for somebody, who's in comedy, who is a Christian comedian, it's clean comedy.
Yeah.
She said she wished Dave Chappelle would become a Christian so she could spend eternity with him because he's hilarious, right?
I love Dave Chappelle.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but, I'm getting similar information from a 60-year-old clean comedian and a guy who's been and seen things that I probably don't want to know about, right? I don't want to know the things that you've had to do on mission and different things. And it's like, this needs to be talked about.
It does, but the government does not want it talked about. This is the biggest issue. The government's funding it, right? So it created a lot of issue for me and a lot of dynamics because I was partnered with the federal government when I started Operation Lightshine. Now that's great when there's an administration in that I can kind of get along with. Yeah. Right. I politically, morally, religiously align with their values.
Right.
And I don't align with anything about the Biden administration, anything that they do. Right. Well, you're partnered with the federal agency. Now you got to start playing ball the way that administration wants to play ball.
Right.
But to them, human trafficking, child exploitation is not a priority. They actually have turned our Department of Homeland Security into the largest human trafficking organization in the world. And people are like, Matt, what are you talking about? Well, okay, if you were spending money giving through Department of Homeland Security grants, hundreds of millions of dollars, to NGOs that just got stood up yesterday to move people to Mexico, move them across the border, give them a stipend, pay for their travel, and give them addresses to other NGOs that you're funding all over the country to take them in, right?
Right.
And people are disappearing. I think they've already admittedly lost over 87,000 children.
Wow.
And, this was a year and a half, 2 years ago. Whistleblower, God knows how many children have lost now. If you were doing all that, they're moving people over the country, paying for it, giving them stipends, and doing God knows what with them, I would say you're the largest human trafficker in the world because you've moved 20 million people into the country. Now, cartel's doing pretty damn good at it, but they're not doing 20 million people in 3 years good at it. Right? So, man, again, how do I fight human trafficking, right, with the federal government agency being the biggest human trafficker? And then Homeland Security investigations. Now, I'm not talking bad about the agents in this, right? There are some amazing human beings that have dedicated their life in these organizations to fighting this crime set. But their organizations, once you get past agent doing the job, it's bureaucracy, it's getting promoted, it's doing whatever the administration says, and there's mass sweeping changes of high-level leadership anytime any president's elected, right? So you have these systemic problems with bureaucracy running these agencies, and then, you have the agents just trying to do the best they can, right? They join to do good things, right? Not play politics.
Right.
So anyways, puts me in a tough spot, right? Because Homeland Security Investigations has some of the best agents in the country at fighting human trafficking and actually investigating it, right? The FBI is lost.
Yeah.
Human trafficking, all these things. Well, their parent organization, DHS, is the largest human trafficker in the world. Mm-hmm. You're like, make it make sense. Yeah. Is this America?
Yeah.
So, man, I've really started to focus now on supporting this fight with states, like-minded states, because I got in a lot of hot water with Department of Homeland Security and other people because I'm conservative and Christian and what that makes me say, and what that makes me speak out on, and what that makes me believe in, right? I got a lot of hot water for that. And I don't want to be in a situation where I'm hot water that. So now I'm focusing on conservative states, conservative politicians, and building out this fight in a conservative arena. I wish I could help liberal states and liberal kids, but who I am as a person, they're not touching me with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
And also, unfortunately, their politics and their policies, when it comes to this, don't align with me. California, it's a misdemeanor. To traffic and have sex with an underage person. It's a misdemeanor.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's a misdemeanor. I could get pulled over for doing 90 and a 60 on the way home on my motorcycle, which is a very real possibility. And that's a misdemeanor.
Same.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just where we live in. In a lot of states, people are, how could this problem get so out of control again? Or how bad is it? Well, in certain states, you can just get let out of jail and not be prosecuted. You can be arrested for doing these things, like raping a child, having sex with a child, or all that's rape. But I'm saying in a pedophilia style way, or doing it in a human trafficking, purchasing kind of way. A lot of states won't even prosecute you. That's the other problem. Even though law enforcement across the board here in the U.S. is underfunded, understaffed, under-resourced, undertrained, lacking technology, lacking the qualified, talented people who can utilize that technology, because everybody knows government doesn't pay well. And that's causing issues, investigations on all kinds of crime, not just trafficking and exploitation. Well, throwing another wrench to the justice system right now, right? The justice system has been politically weaponized. So you have conservative states where they throw the book at pedophiles and human traffickers, and you have liberal states where they don't even prosecute. And people are like, oh man, there's nothing wrong. Look it up. Yeah. Look at California. Look at Michigan. Look at New York. Look at a lot of these states. It's all in the DA's hands. Police can arrest people all day. But if the district attorney or the prosecutor for that area, district, region, AG, they don't want to do anything about it, that person walks free.
Here at Smith Financial Services, we take care of small business owners, 1099 contract workers, and their families. We know insurance can be rough if you're a small business owner, so we are here to make things easy. Visit our website, smithfinancial.services, to learn more.
And I've seen it happen multiple times. I was just working a case, the guy who raped a 2-year-old girl, his daughter, and then put feces in her with the father-in-law, because they had some weird kind of fetish, videotaped it, and had semen all over her bed from the father-in-law and him. Didn't get prosecuted in Michigan.
Wow.
And I'm not going to say the state he moved into, because we're working this investigation.
Right.
But now he's fucking cop in another state.
Wow. Yeah, that's that makes me sick. I don't know,
because it's just not a priority to them.
Yeah.
It's not important to them. Now we're going down a rabbit hole or slippery slope on what I believe, what's actually happening. And that usually gets me into trouble. But, a lot of people who are trying to decriminalize pedophilia now, speaking out and saying it's just a sexual orientation. That kids have the ability to consent.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to go in that whole other part because I don't think your podcast deleted. But if a kid can consent to anything else that's horrible, permanent, You know, and some states are arresting the parents if they don't let the child do it.
Yeah.
Why couldn't the kid consent to sex?
Well,
In your logic tree.
yeah. Well, that's one thing. I had a conversation with a guy one day, and
Mm-hmm.
he just wasn't going to get on either side of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, bro, I saw a video where a guy put $10,000 and 2 Oreos in front of a kid. Which one did he pick? He took the Oreos.
I mean, all day.
I mean, so now you're going to give that kid, you know,
Yeah.
how can that be okay if they can't figure out, you know, how many Oreos could I get with that 10 grand, right? But I mean, that's the simplest way that I've seen it to say, hey, you know, it's these kids, they don't know. They don't know. And guys like you who are, you know, stepping up and speaking up and doing it. And that's, you know, if the podcast gets deleted, I don't care. But it's like, you know, let's do what we can. And how would somebody be able to help the Sentinel Foundation? What are the opportunities, the ways that people could get in and help?
Well, brother, you know, we're not a typical type of foundation. You know, this is very specialized work. So we have a lot of intel analysts and we have operators. Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got a small little office staff team that,
Right.
you know, is helping us try to figure out how to be a charity. No, you know, but, you know, we're not good at the content creation and all
Right.
the other things. We're getting there.
Right.
But you know, the biggest thing we need is money.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. You know, there's a extremely wealthy family that owns a very popular American institution that funds all the salaries of the Sentinel Foundation.
Okay.
Everybody's paycheck. So every dollar that's donated goes straight to the mission, rescuing children.
Right.
You know, so the biggest one's funding. We do. And we always need it. And $5, $10, $20 a month, it makes a huge difference because it's not, you know, it's not just that person. If 10, 15, 20, 1,000, 100,000 million other people give $5 a month, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So any little bit helps. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
But we also have courses. We do intel analyst training courses where people can volunteer to go through the course and they can assist working on cases. You know, once they finish the course in just a volunteer capacity, and if they're really good or want to, you know, eventually do this full time, there's possibilities there.
Right.
And they get trained from people like Ryan Montgomery, who's the best hacker in the world, 0 Day. He's our chief technology officer.
Okay.
Founder Glenn Devitt's one of the top computer hacker guys around, and he's dedicated his life to saving kids. And, you know, so we got a talented team, a lot of amazing individuals, you know, very high-level people at the Sentinel Foundation. We also have an operator training course. I think that usually goes about once a year.
Okay.
You know, we have a lot of operators, you know, and the team's pretty big, so we're really not looking for a lot of extra help right now. Because unfortunately, we can't keep people paid full-time on staff in a lot of situations, right? So guys go through the training, then they have their job, they go about doing whatever that they do, and then we call them up when there's missions, right? Or trainings or potential or stuff like that, because it's very expensive to keep somebody of that caliber on staff, right?
Yeah.
You know, so we've got a pretty good system worked out. You know, we've done a lot of good things lately. We're trying to build out these stateside task forces. The thing I'm working on. I don't like to talk about it too much because there's some things we're working through and getting on. But to support law enforcement here, then we've got you know, operations going on all over the world all the time, from Uganda to Thailand to Colombia. And, you know, you name it, there's, you know, great relationships made, lots of kids getting saved. And then another thing we do is the humanitarian crisis response that, you know, requires a special operations level of involvement. So, for instance, Haiti, you know, we've done some operations down there. The team did one that made national news not too long ago where the 59 children were rescued, disabled kids from Haiti. Moved into Jamaica to care. That was a huge operation. Team did an amazing job on that.
I think that might be the first time I've seen you smile today when you said the 59 got saved. But you know what I'm saying. I mean, that it does.
Yeah,
it does.
It's awesome to be a part of something like that, man. Yeah. Even though I didn't have anything to do with that operation, the team does it. But you know, it's just I live my life in darkness, man. Because my company does a whole lot of other crazy stuff too, you know, and human trafficking gets affected by it, but we're going after a lot of worse things, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so man, I live my life in problems, right? So when you get to see 59 children, get rescued, or any child that we rescue or change life, that's what keeps you going, man. Because it's just like there's, when, I'm going on a tangent, but when you become a Green Beret or any type of things that I've worked and become in life, you got to do a lot of shit.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff you might not agree with, or a lot of stuff you're like, I really hope someone somewhere out there, this is going to work out in mental gymnastics for the best interest or intention of America one day, And unfortunately, I've had to do a lot of terrible things, man, that I still believe are terrible or worse now than when I was doing them, just looking back. All for America, right? Yeah. But when you become that, it became a very jaded feeling, right? That's why you have so many veterans that, become alcoholics, get addicted to drugs, commit suicide, do really outlandish, stupid stuff, because it's hard to live with sometimes a lot of things that you had to do. But what's awesome about the Sentinel Foundation, we call it a veterans rehab program, jokingly, right? Is a lot of these guys just come in, take all the talent, training, skill sets they have, and actually do a mission where there is no debate, there is not even a thought that you're not doing the right thing. Right? Because when you save a child's life, I don't know if there's really, in my opinion, anything gets you closer to God in that feeling or that moment, to do something good for someone else, especially an innocent little kid. There's nothing that could replace that feeling, and purpose, really. It literally changes people's life and gives them a whole new purpose.
And that was one of the things that I was curious of as we got to talk today is in all the stuff that you deal with on a daily basis, and you've got your kids. Yeah. And it's like, that's got to be tough on you.
It is, man. I'm not perfect at this. It's a work in progress, right? Yeah. But what my wife and I have realized, it's like, I love my wife to death because she is the total opposite of me. Yeah. Right? She is just always happy, smiling, nice, friendly, welcoming to anybody, just excited to be wherever she's at. You know? She is just a beautiful soul. Yeah. And I selfishly married her, for that vibe, right? Yeah. It balances me out. But we've talked about that a lot, is that my energy a lot of times, the darkness and the thoughts and all that can start to affect her, right? Yeah. Because I was selfishly having that, trying to pull that from her. Mm-hmm. So what we've really started to do as a couple is intentional time, right? Where we're not going to talk about work, right? It's just me and her and the baby, or me and her and all the girls, right? And putting the phones down. Yeah. Putting the phones down, right? Not taking the phones to the bedroom. So, if we're about to go to bed, phones stay downstairs plugged in. They're not coming into the room invading our time, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just removing all of the external distractions. And I think the beautiful part is once you can decompress for a second, put the phone away, and just sit with your wife and your little girl, or my other girls when I have them, and just be in the moment and play a board game. Start playing a lot of board games, right? Cool. Just start doing all these things. Read the Bible. Yeah. And, talk about topics that are important to our marriage or family and not everything else. Right. Be fucking outside. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Just being outside, just doing activities, really focusing on healthy distractions, not drinking, not cell phones, and do we still every once in a while go out and listen to his music or have a fun night on Broadway? Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah. But it's not, it's trying to find, I don't believe in balance. I think balance is compromise. Okay. But what I believe is trying to be intense and intentional in every situation I'm in, right? Yeah. Just be there. Yeah. Right? And just be the best I can and just being there. Yeah. Not anywhere else. Yeah. And that's helped my mental health. And then, of course, I've got some screws loose. So my motorcycles are my, my daily therapy. Right. It's like no one can call me. No one can text me. It's just me on the bike. I can be a little dumb, a little stupid, not too stupid. I got a wife and kids I got to worry about. But I can get a little bit out of me. Yeah. It's like my therapy time every day is on my Ducati. That's my... Awesome. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And when you know, and we are in the back of a toy hauler parked at a ballpark.
There you go.
And I see you zoom by, and I'm like, that was just badass in of itself. All right, bro. I'm like, okay, you know, he's done all these things, and then he shows up on a bike. It's like, all right,
man. I'll tell you what, brother. Once you get the itch for doing stupid stuff, jumping out of planes and doing all the crap that I've done, even though I still have a company that does similar things, you know, in a capacity. I don't really talk about what I do on the for-profit side, but you know, I don't get to jump out of planes anymore.
Right.
I don't get to be that guy that's kicking in the door and, you know, smoking, you know, the dude that we've been after for 10 months. You know, we have a team that does all those kind of things, right? And now I'm just like, you know, one of the bosses, I guess you could say. And it's boring, man. You know, it's boring. So my motorcycle and just doing those things to get that adrenaline, that feeling, that rush, it kind of stops me from doing self-detrimental bad things. Like, you know, if I can get that rush on my bike, I'm not coming home and maybe I'm going to have more than 3 beers, you know?
Right.
You know, it kind of just gets it out of me.
Right. Well, and unfortunately, we got to kind of conclude the show here, you know. But is there something that you have that you just, you know? I know we've talked about a lot of different things, right? We've hit on a lot of things, but when it comes to you and maybe pre-military or maybe back then, like what's something that you could look back at and go, hey, this is why I am who I am today?
Man, I would say the reason I became who I am today is I think our system here in America is broken. Yeah. Right? For me, it was when I went to college. Well, in high school, you're told you got to go to college and, you know, you're going to be this. You're going to pick this thing, and that's going to define me for the rest of my life. And I'm like, I get into college, I test really high on I only got into college because I had one of the highest scores in the state on the ACT, and I was failing high school. I didn't do homework. I didn't care. I was intrigued. So got into college on a scholarship because of my ACT score and scored high enough on the test to start off in mechanical engineering school freshman year, first semester. Hated it. It's way too much studying. You know, I was like, I ain't doing this. I changed majors like 4 or 5 times. I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. I was like, I'll be a doctor. I'll be, you know. And what I realized is that for me, that's not life. That's not real life. Like we weren't born to just be this thing that defines, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant. Like, are you really, or do you hate your fucking life most days? Do you like the money? Maybe. But like, are you miserable? Right? Are you really happy? Is that really who you are? Is that just something somebody made you choose? You wake up every day, put your pants on, and you do it, and you do it, and you do it until the day you die. Or do you get to live fucking life? Yeah. Do you get to see the world, experience stuff? And here's the thing. Joining the military, hasn't all been good. I got health issues and things that don't work right. God knows what else. I'm going to stem cells next week for it. But I got to see the world. I got to save lives. I got to take lives. I got to see the poorest of the poor, the richest of the rich. I got to live in 5-star hotels in Dubai to no star living on the dirt in Syria. Yeah. You know, I got to see it all. I become a fucking man. Yeah. You know? And for me, there is nothing that can replace that. And I think just knowing how broken our system was and how much it breaks the individual if you choose to become another nug in it. Even though people say, oh, you became a nug in the military. It's like, yeah, but I used the military for everything I could possibly get out of it. Right. And got things that out of it, millions of dollars worth of training, skills, experiences, and things that have allowed me to change, I don't know how many thousands of lives since, right? You know, and to look at everything and just go back to it is how broken the education system is. It really set my life. But looking at everything, God's got his hands all over it, man. It's his plan. Yeah. I'm just an idiot that works here. Right? You know, people ask me all the time, they're like, man, do you think God had your sister die so you could say, no, he knew. He knew. He knew what I was going to become. He knew where I was going to mess up. He knew where she was going to mess up and what I was going to become. You know, but his plans are perfect, and you know, I'm just an idiot that works here. Yeah. You know, I just do what I can, try to be the best follower of Jesus. I don't like to consider myself a Christian. I think Christianity is completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
90% of Christians probably don't know what the Bible really says about being one, or who Jesus really is,
Sure.
right? And I think institutional religion is just part of the biggest problem with human trafficking. Because if Christians did what God said, my churches were 3 or more gathered in my name, so am I.
Amen.
Right?
Mhm.
You know, God doesn't say go build a $100 million building and pay your pastor $50 million a year
Yeah.
and give 10% of everything you have to this church so that more people can come for 1 hour a week. God
Yeah.
said protect the widows and the orphans.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
To me, that's what the church should be doing. So in reality, if the church is actually taking care of its community, putting all the money that the people give them to steward wisely into the community
Yeah.
to help women and orphans and feed people and keep them safe and keep them out of vulnerable, horrible situations and get them on a good path in life, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now if the church is doing what it should be doing.
You
That's
know,
the truth.
that is true.
Billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Hundreds of billions of dollars get put into the church system. And how many pastors do you have flying around on private jets? How many big, nice churches do you have? How many Judge Judy Sunday services do you get? You know, and how bad are our communities and our society? People hate Christians and are walking away from the church because we don't practice what we preach and we don't live a godly life. A lot of us,
Right.
right? We don't live like Jesus. We live like God on the throne,
Yeah.
judging.
Yeah. That's
Right?
Yeah.
We don't live like Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just trying to focus on my life now, living like Jesus, doing good for others, trying to do as good as I can for myself, recognizing I'm a sinner, having
Yeah.
grace for myself,
Yeah.
grace for others. You know, you got to be able to forgive yourself first,
right.
right? You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be a better person every day. And that's all you can do, man.
That's awesome. That
Mm-hmm.
That's the best answer I've ever heard, man. And it's genuine and it's real. So thank you for being here today, brother.
you, man.
I appreciate
I
your time.
appreciate it.
All right. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for watching Podcast on Wheels.